Yeah, so I really like the editing as well. I love movies that are built around like platonic friendships instead of romances.
Yeah.
Like Broad City. Broad City is one of my favorite shows
Oh
ever,
yeah.
and it's just about the exploits of these two wacky girls in New York. I'm pretty sure I introduced you to Broad City, right? I was in LA
You
and was
did, and
like,
you got me
let's watch
addicted.
something.
I've rewatched it so many times now.
Yeah, so I just love stories built around like really profound kind of platonic friendships because I feel like it's what we don't have very often is we just have like shows that are built around quick and fun like romantic or sexual relationships and not necessarily about these intense kind of life transforming platonic friendships. On Sunday, and
Yeah.
it was very likely Oktoberfest that infected me. Just because you're around
Mm,
so many people and people are touching your food and your drinks and
yeah.
stuff, and then it just got to me that evening is when I like started feeling sick, and so like an incubation period of 12 hours isn't insane.
Yeah.
It can happen.
I was gonna say, is it like people making their home brews, or is it like just big companies?
No, it's like big. It's Snowbird. Did you ever do that
No,
up at
uh-uh.
Snowbird?
No.
Oh, it's like Snowbird Oktoberfest. Like it's a whole German thing. Yeah, bunch of big name brand kind of beers there, but also a lot of German food. Brats, pretzels, beer cheese, the kind of stuff. It's super fun.
That sounds fun, yeah.
Wildly overpriced. Holy cow! For beer, $20 for a beer. Beer's not even
Ugh.
good.
Yeah, woof. Okay, so
$23 for a turkey leg. Are you kidding me?
you know, having lived in Vegas for a couple years and loving the city for more reasons than just the strip. Seeing all the TikToks and everyone else talk about the fact that like Vegas is dying, the strip is dying, Gen Z's killing Vegas. It's like, no, Vegas is killing Vegas. If every meal is $35 plus, we're not going, like that's just not part of the plan. So yeah, to your point, rough to have empathy when some of these places are like, yeah, here's $25 for a beer or a burger. Crazy. Let's go back to a simpler time.
Let's go back to a simpler time.
Booksmart 2019. This is your sacred text for the month. I
Yeah, man.
do really like this movie, so it's not going to be a combative discussion, but I do want to hear what made you love it so much when I feel like when it came out, there was a little discourse, if you want to call it that, that kind of kept some people away from the movie, myself included.
Really?
Not myself included. I had other reasons for not seeing it with a crazy job I started, but it was like months on. I'm like, this has so much more weight to it than when it first came out. But yeah, talk to me about what drew you to Booksmart.
Yeah. So okay, I don't even remember trailers for this movie. Okay.
Okay.
So like I didn't even see this in theaters. My first time watching this was in my basement during the pandemic. When I was in social isolation.
Did you
Uh,
text me about it?
I probably
I
did
feel like okay, this makes sense.
because I text you all the time, like, "Hey, have you seen this movie? Is it any good?"
Yeah.
And yeah, I watched this in my basement, and then it kind of just like dominoed from there, and I watched it maybe 4 or 5 times over the rest of the year, and I was just like, I really connected with the movie for some reason. I mean, we'll go into
Hmm.
those reasons, obviously, but
Of course.
um, yeah. So I'm what was the you have the history and the context. I don't know any of that.
This was like pre-Manosphere because like 2019, obviously Joe Rogan and such still existed, but I don't think the Manosphere truly took over the zeitgeist until like second presidency Trump, right? 2022, 23, when it finally like everything was really shifting that way of like now Andrew Schultz and Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan are not just podcast hosts, they're suddenly like leading discourse. So 2019 that was not the case, but oh man, did this movie get just blasted by a lot of people who were more misogynistic at times or otherwise. So
Mhm.
they didn't like it was Olivia Wilde. That is your first
Okay.
strike. They really didn't like that a lot of people were connecting it to Superbad, which I agree. We have to stop comparing movies to other movies all the time and let it just be its own thing because we
Yeah.
don't always have to have it compared to what you think is the gold standard.
But it does
So
share some DNA with Superbad,
it does, which
like
also shares
literal
some
DNA.
literal DNA, and it shares DNA with so many other like high school movies as well. But you're right, it is closest to Superbad. But as such, this became like a poster child for the anti-woke folks who were like, this is a woke version of Superbad with girls. Of course, one's a lesbian. Oh my gosh. And it just became this kind of like
Mm.
lightning rod of frustration. So I had a lot of friends tell me that they were dissuaded from seeing it because they were like, oh, I don't really want to see a woke version of Superbad. And it was like, oh, I don't know if that's what the movie is. So I saw it few months afterwards when it first hit streaming, and I loved it. And also, it wasn't super bad. It was their own thing. And Olivia Wilde has such a different direction to it all. It doesn't feel like it's a copy, but that's how it was sold to so many people who will never see the movie.
Interesting. Because I had never seen Superbad when I watched this movie.
Oh, okay.
And so I watched Booksmart first, and then I watched Superbad, and I said, wow, Superbad is a worse version of what this movie is.
Yeah. Which is funny because I think too, I've watched a lot of the 2000s Judd Apatow movies. It's difficult for me to watch many of them. It was a different style of comedy, a different time, and not having an older sibling who was into those kind of movies, where I think a lot of my friends who loved them had an older brother and they were trying to copy what
Yeah.
they were doing, or they snuck in to watch it with them and or their parents. But yeah, Superbad was never like a sacred text of mine in high school. I was never
Yeah.
walking around saying I'm McLovin. That wasn't my thing. It was, a different age gap, I guess.
Yeah.
And so for me, like you watching this, it's like, oh, Booksmart's a better movie. It has
Well, like,
13 years on it, and
and
it
it's
is
a
better.
better movie.
It's a better movie all the way
It's just
through.
a better movie. Yeah. That's funny. I didn't even, I mean, it just shows how disconnected I am from maybe certain cultural conversations,
Yeah.
that I exist in a little bit of an echo chamber where everyone that I know just loves Booksmart because, well, everyone that I know is either girls or gays. So of course they're going to
And for
like it.
them, it's a fantastic movie, you know?
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie.
Well, let's talk about what caught your eye at the beginning and what has made you solidify this as a sacred text and not just a good movie you saw.
Okay, so before we jump into the meat of it, kind of just the surface features that just really capture me. The
Yeah.
soundtrack is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Olivia Wilde did a this is her directorial debut.
Hmm.
Say what you will about her as a person. I don't know enough about her as a person to even have opinions.
Yeah.
She knocked it out of the park with this. The soundtrack and the mixing is just not just like the music that plays, but like the song choices. Because the
Hmm.
soundtrack for the movie is really just a bunch of songs, but they hit and they are punchy and they are relevant and they just like really punch up the script in a way that just it feels it's not like an Edgar Wright thing where it's like a music video like Baby
Yeah.
Driver is. It's not like that, but there's just it brings a hipness and a coolness to the plot and the
Hmm.
script. So the music choices out of this world, fantastic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, watching it again this time, I was like, oh, I didn't recognize the first time I saw it how many bands and songs and things I knew from this movie. I'm a big fan of Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. Raw Riot has a couple songs in here. Anderson Paak is in here.
Mhm.
Jurassic 5, Salt and Pepper. You have a good mix LCD sound system. Just a bunch of songs that, to your point, make it feel like it was made by someone young and hip and who understands the culture, and not someone old who's going to have 80s music in a current high school movie.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, you're totally right. That like, if an older director were to make this movie, they would punch it up with all the songs from the 80s or the 70s
Yeah.
and make it like a Dazed and Confused sort of vibe. Instead, they're using a lot of contemporary music to kind of root it in the contemporary moment. A
Yeah.
contemporary moment being 5, 6 years ago. Um, and to that point, the editing, I would say, is also really well done.
So good.
Like, just editing is like how do you stitch together scenes in a way to not just tell a story but also to be impactful. And this movie's got a lot of great, I mean, it's obviously a comedy, and so you're
Yeah.
trying to edit for jokes and for punchiness, but I don't know, she just does a really really good job. Everything from like kind of the intro scene, where you get Beanie Feldstein listening to the kind of like fuck everyone who doesn't believe that you can do a thing
Yeah.
to kind of the editing and the way that the music will fade out and just let the characters do something, and then the music will come back in, to like that sequence at the end where Amy is swimming through the pool
Yeah.
with the music and there's just all these bodies around, and it's just like, wow, this is cinematic, this is beautiful, this is fantastic. um yeah, I'm a huge fan of the editing in this movie. It's just
Yeah, I think to that point, we always talk about what's a made for Netflix or made for streaming movie versus what's theatrical. And of course, the goal lines are definitely shifting these days, and what people will say gets them to a theater. This is a theatrical movie. It feels theatrical. And I think when we talk about editing, one of the tricks that she does, like you said, with the music cutting in and out, which was very fun, especially the beginning. You have them
mhm.
walking out. Okay, music stops. They dance, and you're like, oh, this is a character movie. We're not just vibes. Like, it matters what the characters are feeling and doing. We're in their shoes. But also, the use of slow motion is really intentional and well done. It can feel cheesy in so many other movies where you're like, here we go. We're gonna have slow mo of Channing Tatum's butt in a pair of jeans in a rom com. Like, ha ha ha. This is different. This is like on the characters' faces. Oh no, what are they experiencing and saying? It's like life is slowed down in high school to recognize all the groups and what's going on. And to your point, the editing does make it feel, especially compared to Superbad, makes it feel like so much more of a theatrical cinematic movie than it could have been if it was just shot 24 frames a second all the way through, simple cuts, setups, go, 90 minutes done.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really like the editing as well. I love movies that are built around like platonic friendships instead of romances.
Yeah.
Like Broad City. Broad City is one of my favorite shows
Oh
ever.
yeah.
And it's just about the exploits of these two wacky girls in New York. I'm pretty sure I introduced you to Broad City, right? I was in LA
You
and was
did, and
like,
you got me
let's watch
addicted.
something.
I've rewatched it so many times now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just love stories built around like really profound kind of platonic friendships, because I feel like what we don't have very often is we just have like shows that are built around quick and fun like romantic or sexual relationships, and not necessarily about these intense kind of life transforming platonic friendships.
Yeah, and can we talk about for a second some of the productionness of it all? I think one of the reasons why the friendship is so well fleshed out and done is it's not a single writer. It's not written by Olivia Wilde. And
Hmm.
so you have these four gals. You have Emily Halpern, Sarah Haskins, Susanna Fogel, Katie Silberman. You have four women who sit down and write this script. And these are not first-time screenwriters, so like no one needs to point that way. These are not people also who have like 100 things on their credits each. So, it's kind of somewhere in the middle of like still trying to prove yourself with your writing, but also having some experience there. So,
Hmm.
some of the writers did stuff like this television series like The Wilds or The Flight Attendant, Utopia. Another one had written Isn't It Romantic, which came out 2019 as well with Rebel Wilson and Chris Hemsworth. Another one had written DILF and Blackish and The Mayor and just did 80 for Brady a couple years ago. Anyways, you have a good mix with these four writers. And I think that helps to kind of give different perspective and also build out the world in a really nice way of saying, like, each character is multifaceted. Like, even your poster child enemy characters of high school also were smart and got into schools. And I think it was really good to show it that way. So it's not just such a total us versus them.
Yeah, which brings us into why it's a sacred text for me. This is a journey movie.
It's
And
such a good movie.
just when we did Gravity, we talked about how much I love journey movies,
Yep.
where the point is to get somewhere. And the plot of this movie, really high level, is you get these two girls, Molly and Amy, played by Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Devers, Caitlin Dever, and they're like the smart girls, the goody two shoes. Like, they're like, oh, we have fake IDs, but they're fake college IDs to get into the library, which is just hilarious. They're the overachievers who are like, I'm going to get into Harvard, I'm going to get into Yale, and then I'm going to become the youngest Supreme Court justice ever. So they're just like, I'm taking this so seriously, and no one else is going to take this seriously. And then they're at the last day of school, and it is revealed that all the other students in their high school, all their senior class, who they look down upon at the beginning of the movie, also got into really prestigious Ivy League schools. And then it breaks that, or breaks their paradigm of how they exist in the world. And they're like, no, 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 I'm better than you. This doesn't make any sense. And then the rest of the movie is about them trying to prove to everyone else that they're cool, and they're trying to make it to the end of school grad party to spend normal high school time with their peer group to prove that they are normal. And that's the extent of the movie. Yeah, and so it's a journey. It's a journey with a great message and moral lesson, which is why I love it so much.
I mean, at first watch, I was like, is it just another Superbad plot? But it does feel different. And it was kind of funny to have the smart girls going off to big schools who have been so good break themselves, and this is the get laid movie. It's like, let's go to a party, let's get laid. The jokes are out there, they're being buddies about it. And it's funny because it's not like American Pie or any of these other like teeny
Mhm.
movies from the 90s and early 2000s that are like kind of gross and gratuitous. It's not Get 'Em to the Greek. We're not going that far with anything.
No, I would call this
Instead,
raunchy. Those are
yes,
like raunchy comedies.
there's some funny innuendo and sexual humor here and there, but it's not, yeah, it's not raunchy to that point. It feels much more grounded in normality and reality.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, this journey is so fun because you're not worried about the dumb guys getting into bad situations and being dumb. It's the smart girls getting into bad situations and going, oh crap, we're out of our league here. We got to figure out how to get through the dumb situations we would never be caught in. And that to me is it's so much more of a fun conceit throughout the entire movie of like, these girls are smart. They have their wits about them. They don't mess around. So now they're messing around. They have to take some notes from the fuck ups in their eyes who are also going to good schools.
Yeah. So the spiritual textness of this movie for me is that in the beginning of this movie, Molly and Amy to some degree, but mainly Molly has
Mhm.
this disdain for everyone else.
Yep.
This in the world but not of the world.
Yeah.
Like this smugness, this superiority, this ego, because she's got everything figured out and she's doing it the right way. There's one way to do high school, and she is doing it the right way. Everyone else is doing it wrong. And you can hear this in, well, obviously the opening scene where she's doing her little meditation and takes out her retainer, and the meditation is just like, everyone who tells you you can't do it, fuck them and their stupid faces. And
Hmm.
then the movie begins. But then you can see this as the movie goes on. They're in the principal's office, and Molly is eye rolling about end of school year procedures and talking down about her vice president, because she's the class president. The vice president, the name is Nick. He's like a jock. He's really cool. He's part of the popular kids. And then they're at lunch, and Molly and Amy are having a conversation. And then you get Jared, who played by Skylar Gisondo, who played Jimmy Olsen in the new Superman movie,
Yeah.
rolling in with this muscle car with Billy Lord, who was in Star Wars, who's Carrie Fisher's daughter.
Yep.
So they come in and they're just making a scene, and it's hilarious. And then at some point, Molly and Amy make a comment, and Molly's like, "Amy, we are equals." And so
Hmm.
there, you can hear in that line that there's so much disdain that she has for everyone else, and she does not see everyone else as equals. And so, okay, so you and I have a similar growing up background. Granted, I grew up in
Yep.
Provo, and you grew up somewhere else. Um,
Southern California and North Carolina after that, but yeah.
uh, in the Mormon upbringing, is there a disdain for everyone else?
Mhm.
Like, let's talk about that.
And I'll widen the scope as well.
Yeah.
Anyone who is in a high control religion in general,
Hmm.
or I will even broaden it beyond that. Certain cultures and races and ethnicities have tales and stories that tell them they're better than other people. And we were in one of them, and there are so many others. I spent a lot of time with Polynesian people. You will never be put more in your place than when a Samoan man in his 40s tells you how much better Samoans are than white people or anybody else for that matter. And I was like, oh, the more you know. Anyways, there are many that fit this bill, but ours was definitely a pedestalizing religion in which we believed we were better than other people for more than one reason.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This is a universal human issue,
Mhm.
which is this kind of tribalism, this ethnocentrism of like, my group is better than your group, and I'm gonna really believe that and
Yeah.
not let you show me that you're actually my equal. And so I think is part of like if Gravity was my experience of kind of faith crisis and deconstruction, I feel
Mhm.
like Booksmart is my experience of life on the outside,
Yeah.
you know?
That's good. Yeah.
That this is like they're two halves of a of a journey. One's really dramatic, one is silly, full of
Hmm.
silliness, which is honestly so true in
That's
so many
great.
ways. But yeah, I mean, growing up, I had a smugness. You know,
Hmm.
I had kind of a holier than thou, self righteousness, in the world, but not of the world sort of mentality where I was like, disdain is maybe a strong word, but superiority is maybe a proper word.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of how I was towards myself and towards other people.
Well, also, I think it helped in a high control religion to have a grading system by which you could grade everyone else and how righteous and how good they were. I've tried to explain to people before, it's so strange to come from a family that was middle class, lower middle class at times, and see other people in my same little like congregation who were above and below us in that same track, but to be like, oh, they drink Coca-Cola, so they're worse than me. You know, or or this person at school just came to school with a coffee, like, oh, it must suck to be worse than I am. Just because
Yeah.
you had a grading system by which to look at everybody.
Yeah. I think what really resonates for me in this movie is identifying with a protagonist who thinks that she's better than everyone
Yeah.
for reasons that she invented. They're not real.
Yep.
Like they're not real. And so, you know, the kind of inflection point of the movie where the plot turns.
Yep.
So Molly goes into the bathroom, this all gender bathroom in this very liberal progressive school in Southern California.
Love it.
And three of the popular kids go in there and they're having a conversation about who they would or wouldn't fuck. And Molly comes up and she's of course in this bathroom stall listening to these people have a conversation about her. And one of them is like, yeah, I'd fuck Molly, but I would just put a bag over her personality
Yeah.
because her personality is a problem. And they're like, oh, I bet she's got like diplomas coming out of her vag, whatever,
Mhm.
because she's just like so highly accomplished and skilled or whatever. Molly's just sitting there like, yeah, I am. And then she finishes up in the bathroom, walks out of the stall, interrupts their conversation. And those three, it's just like record scratch. And they're just like, oh my gosh, what did you hear? And she's like, you're right. I do have diplomas coming out of my vag. And then she's like, she's in this moment where she's like, I'm going to lord it over these kids. I'm going to go to Yale next year. And they're like, okay, cool. And one of the girls is like, so am I. So when I'm at Yale next year, don't talk to me like you know me. And she's like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
What? You got into Yale? And the other kid's like, well, I'm going to play soccer at Stanford. And the other one's like, well, I got recruited by Google to go code. He's like, you know, it's not Google or it's not whatever, but it's like you got six figures, whatever. And she's like, so Molly is then have to is forced in a moment to confront that her paradigm of the world, her paradigm of superiority is an illusion. It's
Mhm.
fake. And then she freaks out, she snaps. And then she goes through the hallway and like interrogates all these other kids about like where they're going to school and all of them are going to an Ivy League.
Yeah.
And then she like snaps and Molly Gordon's character, who is AAA, who's one of the girls in the bathroom, she's like, Molly says to AAA, she's like, I thought you guys didn't care about school. And then Molly's like, or AAA is like, no, we just don't only care about school, as if it's possible to be big enough to care about school and other things, which is something that did not occur to Molly and Amy throughout their entire time in high school. Yeah. And so that inflection point, I think, is so well done. And it really resonates with me because in Mormonism, we have this idea that you cannot be happy on the outside of the church.
Yeah.
And then to hear that people can, that people can be and people are happy on the outside of the church is like, what? They're like, no, we just don't only care about the state of our souls.
I definitely, like you, related to this moment because it was the moment of like, yeah, but I was spiritual. I had a spiritual identity. I knew, I thought about deep things and it
Yeah.
was like, so do other people. Oh no. So I definitely resonated with this exact moment when I thought about years of being in high school and one of my friends talking to me and he's like, dude, you can love God, but like not be obsessed with the idea of it all. And I was like, says the sinners who are going to hell. And instead, be like, oh, yeah, you can have a very normal, very loving relationship filled, good friendship filled, fulfilling life that still has elements of spirituality and belief and faith and not be obsessed with it. And like you, this movie really hits it on the head of the I wouldn't say FOMO, but like the instant regret of finally having this clarity of going, oh no, it's not all one thing. Got it.
Yeah, like this hyper rigid black and white thinking, like there's only one way, one correct way to do life
Yeah.
is a recipe for suffering.
Yep.
It just is.
And
Because literally then they move on because then Amy's or Molly's like really silent in the car and then Amy's like, "Oh my gosh, if you don't say something I'm like gonna call 911 or something like you're freaking me out."
yeah.
And then Molly breaks and she said, "They did both. We messed up. We messed up." Which is again, there's a black and white thinking in this
Yeah.
where she hasn't graduated from her black and white thinking. She's just inverted it. And so to think that you could mess up is to still hold on to your black and white thinking. And I think that's a really good like juxtaposition to where Amy, because Amy's character doesn't have that black and white mentality.
Yeah.
She's just there to kind of support Molly throughout this journey. But Amy is very much like a, hey, we had the experience we had. It's fine. We don't like, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's Amy has a big enough sense of mind to accept that the choices were made and that these are the consequences. But Molly is very much, no, we messed up. We need to fix this. We're going to go to the big end of your party. And then Amy's like, okay.
And I think that's partially what makes this movie and so many movies that follow similar story structure so great. It would be more realistic or calm or reasonable to be like, you know what? You're right. They'll go to one party, they'll have some drinks. It's no big deal. They won't get stressed out about it. But the giant pendulum swing and the hilarity that follows is so much more enjoyable to watch. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that the writers and Olivia Wilde took it that direction with Caitlin Devers, Amy following along as the voice of reason slash like kind of holding back and having her own story too, because it's not total balls to the wall. We're just going to go crazy and do crime. It's also not we're going to be safe and just go to the party once and we'll be okay and keep in our same exact mentality. It's that fun pendulum swing that creates the
Yeah.
crazy chase and journey that you love so much.
Yeah. So then the question is, how do we get to this party? We don't know the address. So they're like texting a bunch of people. They end up at Jared's party on his boat because apparently he's super rich.
Yeah.
And no one's there except for Amy and Molly and Jared and Gigi. And yeah. And I mean, so yeah, I feel like this movie encapsulates so much of the post-Mormon experience of like drugs, alcohol, and sex.
Yeah.
Just like so they eat some strawberries there, and they're like, "This was not the party we wanted to go to." And then there's some fireworks, blah blah blah, whatever. They leave, and Amy's like, "Okay, we've been to a party. Let's go home." And Molly's like, "No, no, no. We didn't go to the party. We went to a party. I want to go to this party." And
Yeah.
Amy's like, "Okay, fine, yeah, let's go." So then they go to the second location, which again someone lied to them about so it's a murder mystery party, whatever. And Molly's like, "Oh my gosh, I just need to get out of here." But Amy's you kind of like, "So what's my role? Like I want to like
Hmm.
enjoy this." And so you kind of see this tension between Amy and Molly where Amy is willing to kind of like lean into the experience that she's currently having and Molly's like, "No, there's only one way to do this night and this is the place that I want to be." In that party, they have a psychedelic experience because apparently those strawberries were coated in some Asian form of ayahuasca, which we're not really, sure what that is. But then
Yeah.
there's this fantastic sequence where they become Barbie dolls, and it's this stop motion animated thing. I don't know. It's fantastic.
Yeah, there was a weird couple years between like 2017 and like mid-pandemic or so, 2017, 2020, 2022, when this was kind of like a feature of a lot of indie darling movies. Is like, let's pause and do an animated sequence or something in a totally different style. But I will say, I think Olivia Wilde really kicked it off with this movie in the best way of being like, here's how you do it, really funky. Also, for all the movies with drug references and having drug scenes in them, this is one of my favorites. Like, it doesn't have to go too wild and crazy with like, oh, here comes colors and dragons or giant spiders. It's like, no, no, no. We're both Barbies, and it's fun because they keep their characterization through it, which makes it enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, and becoming Barbies is like the antithesis of what these two girls want to be and
Yeah.
represent because they're very like earthy, grounded, progressive, liberal kind of girls. And like being a Barbie doll is the opposite of what they want to be. And again, you get this visualization, this demonstration of how Amy is leaning into the experience and Molly is leaning out of the experience that she's
Yeah.
having entirely.
Yeah.
And how often that is the case for, I mean, like, again, okay, so this is an archetypal movie, right? So it's not that you
Hmm.
want to be Amy or that you want to be Molly. It's to recognize that Amy and Molly exist in that type of way of handling the world exists in you both ways.
Yeah.
And it's about recognizing who is showing up in a moment and which one do you want to be showing up in a moment. So like, I'm not saying you should be Amy. I'm not saying you should be Molly, but just as much as like, when are you acting like this or that? So then they have that experience. Then they walk out of the house and they're just like, oh my gosh, how do we? Okay, we've done drugs. We can go home now.
Yeah.
And then Molly's like, no, we have to make it to this party. And then it's revealed that Molly has a crush on Nick, the jock boy, Mr. Popular, Mr. Prom King. And Amy's like, okay, we're gonna go to that party because she's got her friends back, and she's like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna do it. Then they go through some hijinks of trying to steal some, like trying to figure out how to get there from going to the library or like the address from going doing research to like trying to get the address out of a pizza company, just some insane hijinks. And then like I wanted like what I would love to do is plot this movie against like the Odyssey and
Oh,
like
interesting. Yeah.
and just like see where the beats line up because I think all Journey movies are probably inspired from the Odyssey, if
Hmm.
I had to guess. But anywho, they need a ride. So they finally get the address to the right party and they need a ride. And Amy's lost her phone. Molly has very low battery. And they're just like, oh crap. And so they make one call from a number that they had gotten earlier in the movie to their teacher, Miss
Hmm.
Fine. And they just are able to scream out the address really quick and say, we need to be picked up. And they're just sitting there on before the phone dies. And then they're just sitting there on the sidewalk, like, what do we do now? And then Miss Fine, Jessica Williams, drives up in
Hmm.
her little Subaru Impreza. And it's just like the coolest thing you've ever seen,
Yep.
you know? And she's just there. She's the goddess here to help our heroes on the second half of their journey. And then she like literally is like a fairy godmother that gives them sparkly, fancy new clothes. And she's like, "You guys are lucky. I'm like a single woman living in LA. I got a lot of
Hmm.
shit in my car." And
Yep.
and then she's like, "Why don't you guys go through some of those bags?" And of course, she's got clothes that fit them perfectly.
Of course.
Of course, she does. They get out of the car. They're sparkly. They're glowing. They're like mermaids. Ah, it's beautiful. It's fantastic. And then they go into the party.
And oh, what a party it is.
And what a party! Yeah. Do you have thoughts?
I was just gonna say for all of our LA listeners slash people who have been here, this movie, by the way, is a fantastic patchwork of LA. Because watching it
Yeah.
now, compared to 2019 when I only lived here a year, I was like, oh, that's Marina Del Rey. That's in Glendale. That's in the Valley for sure. That's got to be over here. And it was fun to like look up filming locations and realize how many places I'd either driven by or that are close to where things are. And to your point on the Odyssey level of it all, Olivia Wilde had said about high school when she was first like doing the press tour, she's like, high school was war. All I wanted was to survive and make it out alive with, a medal or so, and I wanted to be done with it. So I think you're right on this Odyssey thing. And the party is like the shocking Odyssey when Ulysses, when Odysseus shows back up in town of like, oh shit, what's going on? And gets completely surprised by what he thought he wanted has completely changed, which is what we get here with Molly.
Yeah. So they walk in. She makes eye contact with Nick from
Yeah.
across the entire house. And then it fades into this dance sequence where everything else fades away and her and Nick go on this like dance through the house. And it's fantastic. It's
Hmm.
so well done. And then, 20 seconds in, it snaps and it cuts back out. And she's just like, whoa, like she just had some you know, vision sequence, and they walk into the party. And I think here's what's really great about this is, in the hands of a different screenwriting team, director, whatever, I think this could have been like, oh, the popular kids are like, what do you guys think you're doing here? You
Yeah.
guys hated us all year. Why are you here? But instead they walk in and all the cool kids are like, oh my gosh, you made it to my party. How did I get so lucky to get you to come to my party? Can I get you guys a drink? Like, can I get you guys a smoke? Like, what can I, and so they're just
Yeah.
immediately inviting and bringing them into the party.
Which is nice to see because I think at first, yeah, at first watch, I expected they're gonna get ignored. They're gonna walk to the back porch with someone else's punch that's half drunk, and they'll be sad. But that's not the
Mm-hmm.
case, which is fun to see.
Yeah. So then the girls split up and go on their various side quests. Molly, of course, is there to flirt with Nick, in which they do. And then Amy is there to flirt with Ryan, who
Mhm.
is a very lesbian coded girl, and Amy is a lesbian. And it's kind of this like teeny bop. This is where it becomes like, oh my gosh, I literally remember being in high school and like, you know, being really Twitter pated because some girl put her head on my knee because we were at a party and we were singing karaoke or whatever like that, and just being like, oh my gosh, is this it? And
Are we gonna
then
be married?
are we gonna get married now? Granted, I did not go to a lot of high school parties,
But
but I know what the energy was like.
yep.
And so they go on their various side quests, and we check on with the girls, throughout their night, and it looks like everything's going so good for both of them in their plots. And then things start to take a turn. The pool sequence,
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
So Amy had been doing karaoke in the room with all these kids or whatever, and it's fun. And then she goes outside, and everyone starts jumping in the pool. She takes off her dress, jumps in the pool, and the soundtrack. Oh my gosh,
Oh, so good.
so good. Like they play this song almost 2/3 of the way through, or like the majority of the song or whatever. But it's just Caitlin Dever jumps into the pool and then starts swimming through this like throng of bodies that are just like swimming around. And the lighting, the swimming, the beat, the music, so well done.
Yeah.
And then she makes it to the other side of the pool, and we can see she's like confused. And then what we see when she comes up over, with her head out of the water, is Nick and Ryan making out with each other. So both of their love interests in the movie picked each other over them. And
Yeah.
Amy's like, oh crap. And then she rolls with it because that's what Amy does. Amy's able to roll with things. So she gets out of the pool, puts her dress back on, and then we get a fantastic oneer. It is a long oneer of very dialogue heavy. It's a very dialogue heavy oneer where Molly's like, "Oh my gosh, like things are going so well, blah blah blah." And Amy's like, "Chica, we gotta go. Like we gotta leave this party right now." And
Mhm.
then they have the whole thing that turns into a fight, and like everyone around them, the party stops, and then they start like recording it, and it's just a bad thing because you get this great friendship that just dissolves in a moment where it's become clear that the tension between their two ways of doing things, of there's only one right way or there is I'm just going to roll with it, reaches a breaking point, and they like have a fight in front of everyone, and it's big and dramatic.
And it's tough to watch because it's
Very hard to
one.
watch.
Anytime you've had a fight with your friend, you wish it never happened, and you were like, "That was the worst thing." But yeah, to think of it at their big party, end of the year, day before graduation, it's painful because you know how much they love each other and they're best friends, and yet you also know this is something that can definitely happen. And it happens all the time.
Yeah, and even to the point where the dialogue fades out at some point, and it's just
Yeah.
kind of this like sad music over their continued yelling at each other,
Yeah.
and then it ends, and they just go their separate ways. Amy goes into the bathroom, Molly goes and sits somewhere, I don't know, and then they have the rest of their nights where it's just kind of like they each have an experience that brings them back to themselves. Amy's is with this girl that is a hot girl but has hardly been in the movie much at all,
Yeah.
and to kind of serve as a foil for her to like stand up for herself and be herself in this moment. And then Molly has to confront Jared, the rich guy who wants everyone's attention. She's just like, Jared, you can't buy people's attention, and he's like, no, I think you can. My parents did. I've seen my dad do it. I saw my grandpa do it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this poor guy. But then
Yep.
she has to have a real like heart to heart confrontation with herself, where he's like, hey, look, Amy or Molly, you're passionate, and that's what I like about you. I wish that more people were passionate about things. And she's like, yeah, you're right, I am passionate, blah blah blah, whatever. And then the cops are called,
Yep.
and the party's over, and then everyone runs. And then, yeah, Amy is just like, oh crap, there's like a bunch of people in the house. And Amy's just like, oh, I'm not a coward. I'm going to do something that's going to make everyone else get away. She's like, I'm going to make a distraction. So she runs towards the cops and forces them to chase her. And then everyone else gets away. And then she gets arrested.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Hilarious.
Because Amy's not a coward. Then Molly wakes up. We flash, time passes. The people go to sleep. Molly wakes up to all these messages on her phone, and she's like, holy cow, Amy's been arrested. So she goes to the jail, picks up Amy, and they reconcile through the glass barrier, which is such a good reconciliation. Plus, there's so many good jokes in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a cute scene. You don't
It's a
usually
really cute
have the
scene.
high school journey movie ending with the other of the smartest two in jail with a fun way to get out.
Yeah, especially the setup. The setup, of course, I mean, comedy is setup and payoff.
Yeah.
I mean, storytelling is setup and payoff. But at the beginning of the movie, Molly was like, someone always gets arrested the night before graduation.
Yeah.
And of course, with the disdain is it's not going to be us, but of course it was one of them.
Yeah.
So then they reconcile, they apologize to each other, and like, you're not a bad friend. And it's like, of course they're not bad friends. Like they love each other. And so to be able to like portray a genuine reconciliation between friends like that is, I think, really good. But then they're like, okay, we got to get to graduation. So they speed off to graduation. And here's my favorite part. Okay. This ending scene, if there is a heaven, you know,
Better look like that when you get there.
yeah, because I think the lesson that Molly learns at the end of this movie is that we're all on the same team. So much shit happened the night before, but here everyone is happy to be together, celebrating the intensity of the shared experience. Like there's so much shit that went down, and yet everyone's just there together. No one's rehashing. No one's like carrying grudges. I mean, at least that we see, no one's carrying grudges
Yeah.
in the next day, and everyone's just like stoked to be there. And then when Amy and Molly pull up in that like muscle car and stuff, everyone's just cheering and stuff, and like it's a celebration of togetherness. And then Molly goes up to the stage, kisses Jared, and then gives a speech about how she's like, I was scared of you. I had to prove that I was better than you, and I have a lot more to learn. And she said, I see you now, and you're all pretty great. And so Molly finally arrives at this equality of selfhood, where there are multiple paths towards this place. And I love that because I feel like in the kind of exiting a high demand religion, exiting ethnocentrism, tribalism, the hope is you arrive at a bigger circle that is more global centric or like kind of universal centric, where you see people for who they are and you don't have to compare or stack them up against each other. And that's certainly where I've arrived at. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still have superiority complex, old habits die hard, and I know that it's still alive in me in some places, and it'll be the work of a lifetime to really rat out. But to arrive at I see you all and you're all pretty great, I think is a fantastic ending.
Yeah, it is almost like a heaven entering scene to your point. The slow motion once again, they are just cruising in Jared's 77 Pontiac Firebird, I want to say. 77, 78.
Oh, I kept wanting to say Thunderbird, but you're right. I think it's Firebird.
Close, yeah, Pontiac Firebird. Just like a mean screaming car with a silly paint job on it. But it just has such an air of cool. And as we talked about in Militainment, the rule of cool always works. When it's
Yeah.
cool, it just like it hits right. There's something in your heart that says yes to all of it. And so they're drifting into the graduation. And I, in general, hate movie thesis statements and finale speeches. I just don't love them. But this one works just like, in my eyes, Crazy Stupid Love's speech works too.
Yeah.
Because both of them, I cringe, I like clam up. I'm like, please, dear God, do not give a high school graduation speech or a middle school. But it is honestly her talking to the audience more than it is to the people in the movie. It's talking to you, the viewer, to say like, hey, I see you, I get it. And if you are in this position, please come to this place that I'm at too of you're all cool, I get you. I am a much more well-rounded person. And I think Beanie Feldstein does such a good job delivering it. It doesn't feel stale or like a lot of Judd Apatow ending movies, of like, oh yeah, the comedian has to give the lines they hated trying to memorize for 3 weeks. No, it just like felt more natural and normal. But yeah, what
Yeah.
what an
So So this is my a sacred text for me. Not only is it funny, it's a really well done piece of cinema. Olivia Wilde's directorial debut, great music, and it really, really resonates for me as someone who has walked the path that Molly walks in this movie, from holier than thou disdain for worldliness to I need to get to the party now. The party being how everyone else has already been living on the outside of a high demand religion. I need to get there, and then when you get there, you're like, oh, actually, because I think about this all the time. So I was in a meditation class. Of course, I was,
Of course you were.
and the teacher essentially he was given some Buddhist koan or story or whatever, and the point was all of us already have Buddha nature anyways, whether you're awake or asleep, it doesn't matter.
Mm, yeah.
And so Buddha nature is already in all of us. And so whether you're awake to it or asleep to it, it doesn't matter. And I've since maybe stepped away from that a little bit because it's a little nihilistic, but it
Yeah.
is good grounding for compassion on other people living the life that the way that they're living it is because like, well, so and so already has Buddha nature in them and this is how it's manifesting. So it's okay.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of been a part of my path, which was, oh, I was a Mormon and everyone who isn't Mormon was lesser than me or less well off than me.
Yeah.
But then my path back to it is like, oh, now you're on the outside of it. You can then hold on to that same black and white thinking and say, oh, poor Mormons. You pity Mormons
Hmm.
for being on the inside of something and you're on the outside and you think you're better. Or you can just dissolve that whole system of thinking and to say, we're all here in this together and we're here in this mutual celebration and this intense experience. And I see you now and you're all pretty great. And you can
Yeah.
just hold everyone with esteem and in their Buddha nature. And I think this is what that movie reflects back to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say watching it this time, it did kind of click a couple things in my head of like, this movie works so well because if you looked at the multiplicity of paths that could have happened upon realization that, oh my gosh, AAA is giving hand jobs and getting into Yale, how is this possible? Molly and Amy could have just said, oh well, had their night at home with Doug and Charmaine, Amy's parents, played by Lisa Kudrow and Will Forte, which I will give another quick aside. I felt so sad watching it this time to be like, oh my gosh, these parents are so loving. They've prepared a whole like pre-graduation meal, and Will Forte is so genuine, and it's so sad to watch. Of like, nah, we're gonna leave, and they're like, but the meatballs are, they have cap and gown meatballs. Anyways, I think that because there's so many different directions it could have gone, you can in your head say, oh, in the same way for me, if you had stayed Mormon your entire life, it would have been fine. And if someone else does, if someone else never ever tastes alcohol, that's totally fine for them as well. If someone never travels outside of their country, darn, like you'd hope they would, but also life will be okay, and it has been okay for people who have done it. And I think watching this movie, it paints a picture for those willing to and looking to take a journey of self. This is one way in which it could go down, and here's some lessons to learn along the way, which is what I love about movies. Don't be so overt and hit us over the head with the lessons every time, which this movie has a little bit of, but I don't think it's as overt as some others. But I think it's just nice to have an enjoyable, fun journey that says, if you're in a situation like Molly or Amy, here you go. We're going to play it out for you. And if you're not, it's still a funny movie.
Still a funny movie. I mean, awesome comedy throughout.
Yeah. Can I read you some bad reviews, by the way, since we're on here?
Yeah, you
Just like
can.
talk about what people were saying.
Yeah.
This was a elementary fan on Reddit. I don't think there was a single funny joke in the whole movie. That's how they start. Um, Booksmart makes 10 things I hate about you and Mean Girls seem like The Godfather in comparison. No wonder
Wow.
they hire a bunch of shills to pump the ratings for this on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. Woof, right? Like
Yeah.
not great. Not great.
I feel like anytime you paint with a broad brushstroke saying there's not a single funny joke in this, I'm like, okay, so you're coming to this with a lot of baggage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And on the flip side, we had a lot of other writers, reviewers, people talking about it who really enjoyed it. I found one blog called Kirkham Reviews a Movie a Day, and he talked about how he felt that this was a cult gem like Dazed and Confused for those who got to see it and who loved it. And he says he thinks in a few years to 10, 20 years, this will be looked back on with that same kind of love and reference in all kinds of movies. And that is, I think, where it has landed for those in entertainment, making entertainment, and the filmy folks in general. This is a movie I always hear people bring up as top 5 or top 10 when they talk about best movies of the last 5, 10 years. There's a reason it hits so well. But in the moment, it was not as beloved. It had a $6 million budget. It made less than $25 million worldwide, which is kind of shocking.
Kind of shocking, but they also, 4 times their budget.
4 times their budget. I'll say for big studios, this is kind of a nail in the coffin for comedies at the end of the 2010s of like, oh, see, they're not working. Bang, bang. It only made $25 million. There's no way we can greenlight all these comedies. On the flip side for me, though, I'm like, people should have gone out and seen it more. It opened in a lot of theaters, 2,500 plus theaters nationwide. But I think that once again, the frustration of the Trump folks and the right wing and others was just too big to let this movie be as big as it should have been. It was just too loud at that time.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams talked about, he's like, when you have a movie that's as entertaining, well made, and well received as Booksmart, not doing the business it should have, it really makes you realize the typical Darwinian fight to survive is completely lopsided now. Everyone's trying to figure out how we protect the smaller films that aren't 4-quadrant mega releases, but can they even exist in cinema? I think they can. I think we're starting to see a little bit of a shift back. We are begging for comedies like this. So for anyone who's like, oh, I haven't seen a funny movie in the last few years I loved, this is one you have to watch because it is
absolutely interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember what the marketing was like for this. Like, I don't even remember seeing trailers. And I'm a movie guy. So like, did they even market it very well?
Oh my gosh, the trailer is so iconic. So when they enter the school and it's maybe it's that same song when she's coming downstairs, something something something, eat a bag of dicks. No, it's not what it is.
Yeah.
I'll put part of the trailer.
Put me to your lips. Yeah.
I'll put part of the trailer in the podcast so we can listen to it and also link it in the show notes. The trailer was fantastic. And as one who was going to a bunch of art house cinemas in LA, seeing stuff all the time on MoviePass, RIP, I saw the trailer a bunch, so much so I was like almost inundated. So it did have a lot of that, but I just remember when it came out, I didn't know anyone going to see it for the most part. Which is sad.
Interesting. I don't know what was going on in 2019. The pandemic just erased a lot of stuff from my mind.
The pandemic had a weird way of erasing before and after. You're right. May 24th, 2019. Yeah.
I don't even know. I wasn't as cool then as I am now, that's for sure.
That's for sure. I mean, yeah, it didn't have a ton of award wins. It had 29 wins on 60 nominations, but a lot of smaller film festivals.
Yeah.
Didn't get any Oscars. Beanie Feldstein was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Performance in an Actress in a Motion Picture Comedy. But yeah, I think if this came out today, with as much as we're just itching for comedies, it would have done better.
Yeah.
But it also might have just gone straight to Netflix. So who knows?
Probably, yeah. Well done, Olivia Wilde. Well done.
Olivia Wilde and her Jason Sudeikis era. We got to see him in this movie too. Principal Brown. Let's wrap it up there for today. We'll have a link in the show notes, info about the movie, the trailer, as well as where to watch it on VOD or on streaming. And for everyone listening, thank you again for tuning in. Share it with friends and anyone interested in movies. And we'll be back with another Sacred Text next month.